This is NHTV2, North Haven Government Television, a service of North Haven Community Television. The following program is brought to you through the support of the Town of North Haven.
Good evening and welcome to the November 28th meeting of the North Haven Board of Police Commissioners for the Town of North Haven. My name is Larry Lazaroff. I'm the chairman. To my left is Robin Wilson, our vice chairman. To my right is Mark Calafiore, commissioner. To his right is Robert Hannon, commissioner as well. Missing tonight is Alden Mead. Tonight's a special night. Tonight, it's always exciting when we do promotions. And tonight we are doing a promotion. We're promoting Officer A.J. Santagata from officer to sergeant. It's an exciting time. We love when people thrive to produce and move up the chain of command. And tonight's one of those nights that we celebrate. That being said, we will start with the swearing in. Want to approach up here, please? And raise your right hand. Repeat after me. I solemnly swear that
I solemnly swear that
I will bear true faith and allegiance to
I will bear true faith and allegiance to
the United States of America
the United States of America
and the state of Connecticut,
and the state of Connecticut,
and will support the Constitution thereof.
and I will support the Constitution thereof.
I will faithfully and impartially
I will faithfully and impartially
discharge and perform
discharge and perform
all duties incumbent upon me
all duties incumbent upon me
as a sergeant of the town of North Haven.
as a sergeant of the town of North Haven.
I agree to obey and be bound
I agree to obey and be bound
by such rules and regulations
as such rules and regulations
as are or may be made
as are or may be made
from time to time
from time to time,
established by the Board of Police Commissioners.
established by the Board of Police Commissioners.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
All right.
Who's kidding you?
My son. Luke, come on.
I can get her though. Okay, just pin him right over here if you can. It's for you. Beautiful. Congratulations. Good job. We happen to have our third select person here this evening. Would you like to say a few words?
I'd just like to congratulate you, and I wish you all the best. I know you'll do a great job. Thank you.
So at this moment, we'll take a break for photos and then return. Okay, we are back now in open session after having conducted a swearing-in ceremony for Sergeant Anthony Santagata. I'd like to ask for the approval of the minutes of the October 24th, 2023 meeting, both the regular and executive session, please.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any correspondences?
Mr. Chairman, we have just one piece of correspondence right now, and it's from a Mrs. Lisa Palmucci from 88 Sentinel Hill Road, and she wants to thank dispatcher Margaret Prunier, and just in part, she just wants to send a quick note saying thank you, Dispatcher Prunier, for handling a 911 call on September 12th. Apparently, she had fallen in the shower and she had some serious injuries. And Dispatcher Prunier was very calm, and she kept her calm at that moment. And she's very appreciative of her professionalism. And she just says in closing, our town is very fortunate to have such good people working here at the police department. And I just would like to add that, it's not often that we get a dispatcher that's praised by the public, but it's usually police officers, of course. But it just goes to show that, there's a lot of support here with the civilian staff that do a great job too. So thank you to the dispatcher, and that is it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more or her more as well. We're
Very nice.
fortunate.
Yep.
Okay, on to chairman's report. There's not much, I'll be brief. I'd like to congratulate Commissioner Wilson, Commissioner Calafiore for their reelection for the board.
4 more years.
4 more years. And again, congratulations.
For
to
better or
Sergeant
worse.
Santacata. The chief probably will touch upon, we had a community meeting a few weeks ago, and I'm sure we'll talk about that briefly. Basically a reminder to please lock your cars, your homes, your sheds, and be careful when you're driving. The early morning joggers and bikers are out there, and it's very difficult to see them. So please be careful driving. Please try to wear reflective gear when you're riding a bike or jogging. And I'd also like to wish everybody a safe and happy holiday shopping season. Be careful where you park, and again, lock your cars. Don't show your gifts in the car. Just be alert as to what's happening. With that, I will turn it over to the chief for his report.
Thank you. I'd like to start by, again, congratulating Sergeant Santagata for his promotion to sergeant. I've said it before, and I'll say it again tonight. I think that it's my belief that the promotion of sergeant is the most important promotion you can have. And the deputy and I have been fortunate to have been promoted several times, but the promotion and transition from patrol officer to sergeant changes the way you look at things and the way you look at the town of North Haven, North Haven Police Department. You go from being responsible for yourself, decisions you make, your preparation, to now the safety, the wellness, and the overall product of the entire ship. So I congratulate him. He's going to do well. We'll provide him the tools and resources to be successful. And it's always nice to see a family come to a ceremony like this and have the chance to celebrate all the hard work. So I'll move on to the budget as I usually do. At the end of October, we were at 32.8% expended. Again, we are under our self-imposed tracking limits, and throughout November, we continue to stay under our tracking limits, which is always a good thing. I will submit our 24-25 fiscal year budget to the finance office on December 4th, next Monday. That will then go to the first selectman's office on December 12th, after maybe some minor changes or some back and forth about my proposed budget. On February 21st at 7:30 p.m. Will be our budget workshop. We are, as usual, the last workshop on the town side of government, and I invite the entire commission to attend that meeting if you can make it. I always appreciate the support that you've shown the past few years. I think it goes a long way. There's a public hearing on April 2nd to present the budget to the town. Annual budget town meeting, May 13th. Referendum. Actually, I have the wrong dates. I have the annual town meeting on the 13th and a referendum on the 13th. So I'll get back to the commission and we'll post that in the next few months. Get that information out. Before I move on, do any commissioners have any questions about the budget that was in the packet?
No.
Move on to the traffic division. There were several requests. We talked about it last commission meeting, and then there were several requests for social media, phone calls, and emails to take a look at the traffic signal at the intersection of Blakesley Avenue and Route 5. Complaints were the timing coming off Blakesley Avenue was too short. It was a backup. Since last meeting, we've had several members of our traffic division monitor that light. They believe there's not a big problem there as far as backing up. We did early morning and we did in the evening hours. We're going to do a couple different times throughout the day and maybe weekends also to see if the state has that program different than other intersections. But that is a state intersection, so we control the programming and the traffic signals there. So we'll do some more monitoring. If we believe there's an issue, then we'll contact DOT to come out and evaluate that with their engineers.
And along those lines, thank you for contacting them about Monowese and 17. You couldn't even get a whole car.
Have you seen a big difference?
Big
since then? Good. And that's what we need to know. Obviously, DOT is not out there monitoring these things, so as soon as we become aware of any issues or concerns, we go and look at it and we work well with
And you
DOT.
did quickly, thank you.
We continued throughout fall to participate in the South Central Regional Traffic Enforcement Team. It's been very successful, helped drive up our traffic enforcement numbers here. I think it shows a good presence in town every week, every other week, sometimes once a month. So we'll continue, we'll pick that up in the spring with that program. Our traffic division also helped take care of the trunk or treat event recently, prior to Halloween. That was successful. And we remain busy with motor vehicle accident calls for service as well as motor vehicle enforcement. Moving on to training and professional standards. As usual, you could refer to the packet for the specific training. October was a heavy month, which is always good to see. Aside from the state mandates and our Kalia accreditation mandates, we like to try to certify as many officers here to become trainers of their own, so that we don't have to send officers out of town on overtime to go to those trainings. We have our officers, our supervisors conduct training in his classroom or in roll call, so it was a heavy monthly training, which is a good thing for us. We have two ongoing internal affairs investigations. We could talk about that in executive session. And we recently, the deputy chief and I, attended with the town attorney a labor board hearing in Weathersfield regarding another disciplinary matter. We'll talk about that in executive session also. Recently, we had our yearly Kalia Evaluation. It went well, nothing but good feedback. The evaluator, which conducted this remotely this year, had a few minor tweaks of policy language and some what we call proofs, which is just documentation that we are abiding some of the more rare policies and general orders that we have. Those were all fixed and completed. The evaluator complimented the staff we worked with, which there were several of them, and he complimented Captain Thorpe, who is our CLIA accreditation manager, who is the main point of contact, and he noted that he was very professional and accommodating.
As a refresher, how often do you have to do this again?
So it's a 4-year period,
Okay.
but they lighten the load. Instead of at the end of the 4 years, they check everything.
Mhm.
Now they evaluate once a year a certain percentage of the policies
Gotcha.
and proofs. And then at the end of the 4 years, that's the overall large evaluation. October was a busy month for calls for service. In your packets, you can see the correlation between the cost for service elevation and the written reports as well as the accident reports. And I talk about that often. The administrative aspect for when there's more calls for service, there's more time those officers are tied up on those administrative acts. Calls for service slightly down from last year. Last year was a huge spike, but this year is still higher compared to the previous years, excluding last year. Motor vehicle stops are up year to date as of the end of October, over 1,700 motor vehicle stops compared to 1,400 the previous year. Total arrests are at 355 compared to the same time period at 316 last year. Vehicle thefts are at 59 compared to 56. Vehicle burglaries at 229 compared to 191. And the other thing, obviously that's an increase, but the other thing that we see now, people are unfortunately so used to these vehicle burglaries, especially the unlocked vehicles, that a lot of times not reported. So that's not reflected in these numbers. You know, we monitor social media through town, and we have unofficial complaints, but those don't count towards those numbers because it has become such a norm. However, this year it's transitioned to a more brazen act of vehicle burglaries. You know, smashing windows, breaking into cars, especially over the last few months. So that has really ramped up. Since our last meeting, it's been busy. We've had 41 vehicle burglaries. Most of those were smashed windows. 10 stolen vehicles, 7 burglaries. That's a combination of residential as well as commercial. And we've had, just in the last 3 weeks, 7 vehicles flee from us when we try to stop them, whether it's suspicious activity or leaving a crime. It's becoming more and more common that these people are taking off from us. So just 7, not just 7 in the last few weeks. So we've increased staffing on our overnight hours. And again, we do our best to analyze our crime data to pinpoint what hours were affected, what neighborhoods were affected, what days of the week. So we've identified over the last month or 6 weeks the time frames that are most concerning, and we've added staffing opportunities using grant funding, so no cost, doesn't touch our budget as far as more overtime, no additional cost for the town. Under the Canary Scholarship, I had no requests this month. However, if you reference the agenda, this is the month to decide on dates for next year's meetings. Instead of going through all the dates, if it's okay with the commission and with the chair, I would like to present and ask for consideration for motion for 6 p.m. on the fourth Tuesday of each month, except for November to December. Those will be 6 p.m. on the third Tuesday of those 2 months.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
That's all I have tonight.
That's all you have? Any questions, comments?
I just want to compliment you. We did have that community meeting, if you want to talk about that, and you just did such a great job out there of listening and getting a lot of good advice.
Sure, I was initially surprised it was so well attended, which I was pleasantly surprised. I think the tone of, it was primarily residents from the northwest section of town, some people who live in Hamden but close to our town lines. And they are all, as you know, very concerned with the increase in crime. That is that is the slowest district in the town of North Haven for cost for service as well as crime. So when they noticed the uptick, they wanted to meet with us. Mr. Frieda invited me. The organizer did a great job. Anita, I apologize, I don't remember her last name. I wasn't prepared to speak in detail to that tonight. I think there was a lot of great questions. I think the feedback we got after the meeting from everyone who attended was positive. And it seems like a large group, I would say about 110 people attended. I think there were 90
Standing room only,
chairs.
half the door.
90 chairs and at least 20 people standing in the back, which is great to see how many people, not only, it's not great to see that many people concerned about crime, obviously, but that many people concerned about the neighborhoods, about the town, and they seem willing to be partners with us and call us when they see suspicious activity, which we ask everybody all the time. Share their home video footage with us so we can identify not only trends, but suspects. And we talk about this all the time, but even if a stolen car flees from us, if we can connect them not only to that night fleeing from us in a stolen car, but say a vehicle burglary, a robbery in a different town, a purse snatching back in North Haven. Once we identify the one suspect, we could connect all those crimes together. So it's a long-term play as far as reducing crime, but it's part of the package. It's important.
And you really did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just echo that too, Chief. The whole commission was there, and you were spot on, very professional. You handled all the questions very well, and a lot of good positive feedback, and you informed the public, and you're just a good representation of the police department. I know it's difficult sometimes when you have spikes in crime to combat that, but I know you're doing the best that you can with what you have, and again, congratulations, or good job, and you're good for the PD, so thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Anything further? Okay, I have a motion to adjourn
So
into
moved.
executive session. Oh,
Public comment.
no, public comment, sorry.
Do I come up in the front, or how does this work?
Whatever you want to
Just
do.
Sure, I'll just stand up. So, I'm Nancy Barrett, and I'm here just as a member of our community, not as a member of the Board of Finance. And so I haven't really been to a police commission meeting before, so I'm really happy to be here, very impressed by the organization. And unfortunately, I didn't hear about this town meeting in which there were 110 people, not a formal town meeting, but that are obviously so concerned as I am about the crime rate in our lovely little hamlet of North Haven. So I wondered if I might be able to just address a couple of my concerns about this and ask a couple of questions, both of the chief as well as of the commissioners. So, as we all know, that there's been, and we just heard some of the statistics, very alarming statistics on the increase in number of vehicle thefts and vehicle burglaries in our town within the past few weeks as well. And so certainly I think getting the word out to the public is absolutely critical. Don't leave your valuables in the car. Lock not only your cars but also your homes. Try to close your garage doors. I agree with all of that, and keeping up that message is very important. I'm also very happy to hear that the chief has not only made use of the increased police officer total number, but also the overnight staffing. I think that's very, very, very important. But as we all know, the police officers can't be everywhere all the time. So that really begs the question, what really can be done? And in particular, my real concern is that even when criminals are caught, particularly those who are under 18 and prosecuted, the legislation is not in place to actually keep them from doing this again. There's really no deterrent, in other words. So my question for the chief is, are you aware through the Connecticut Police Chiefs Association of any legislation or suggestions for the upcoming legislative session in Hartford that might be able to address this particular issue? Because we really need that marriage of not only the manpower, but also the legislation and the legal forces in order to really make a difference. So that's my first question.
Sure. So I can speak to that, not in great detail, I'm not on the legislative committee, but every session, the CPCA, through lobbyists, not only try to address the overwhelming waves of legislation that make our jobs harder, make communities less safe, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
And I'll say that is my opinion. But they also try to walk back some of the damage that's been done in the past, specifically with the juvenile justice system. With not, I think everyone gave up on the age reduction of what is a juvenile, but the ability for officers to have access to juvenile records if they commit a crime, and this probably costs.
Because they're sealed, is that why?
It's a systems issue. It's a disconnect.
Okay.
As far as in the past, if we arrest a 17-year-old juvenile, we may not know that individual was arrested 10 times in the last 6 months for doing the same crime.
I see, okay.
So we're making progress there, but there's always proposed legislation through some of our state delegates to try to walk that back.
Okay. So sometimes there can be, efforts to get numbers together, whether it be, creating, a template for members of our community to, fill out and send to our state representatives to advocate for exactly these kinds of legislation. Is there some sort of grassroots effort that we in our community can really get off the ground in order to assist you and all of our police officers to really be able to make a difference? Because I think that, as I've said, there's only so much that the police officers can do. They can't be everywhere all the time. And if you do your job, and as we know they are all doing, and there's still, no deterrence, then there has to be some sort of additional steps. So I'm wondering, is there anything that the community can be doing? Is there anything that commissioners can suggest that the community can get involved in that can be assisted?
So that's a great point. If you don't mind, I'll take this.
Sure.
Also, so this came up at the, it wasn't a town meeting. It was a neighborhood meeting that we were invited to.
Right.
I wish there were more
That
neighborhood
means something
meetings.
different in our town, of course.
Yeah.
This is a town meeting for
And this came up as far as reaching out to our reps and our senators. So two things. I try to stay in my lane. I think that's my responsibility as a police chief. Of course, I have concerns over exactly what you're talking about. So I speak directly with our state senator, our state rep.
Good.
And they are more than supportive. They are frustrated but still motivated, and we're in contact weekly at least, if not multiple times a week. As far as petitions and how to contact them, I will ask them to get the word out on how to do that. I don't think that's really in my wheelhouse as far as getting involved in that.
Right.
I'll certainly have that conversation.
Yeah, but to the extent that we can kind of utilize this forum as well as your Facebook page and any type of website in order to get the community involved. Obviously, you had a large number of people that showed up because, and I'm sure that's a small fraction of the people who are actually very concerned about crime in our community. I know there are people who are concerned about doing grocery shopping any time of day, just because of the number of purse snatchings and not to mention, people are actually stealing the cars. So I think that we can't be living in fear, and I think that myself, I'm certainly willing to do what is necessary in order to make a difference in our town. So if there are any suggestions, I'm more than happy to be involved.
I think one of the best suggestions might be, which is what people I know are doing now, don't carry a pocketbook. They can't snatch the purse. Pockets. You carry your phone, your credit card, and your key to your car, basically. And it makes a big difference because if people say, well, I wear those crossbody, but then they can choke you with that, so that doesn't work
Be
either.
really interested with that.
So it's just a good idea to start with, not take a lot.
And don't be walking across the parking lot, talking on the phone, because
Well,
obviously.
don't talk on the phone either.
Right, right.
And the only thing, I mean, the chief is right on with what he's saying. Having done a number of years of lobbying myself, you need to get to not only your own legislators, but make sure that they, because they're not necessarily always on the committees that make these decisions, and they need to have bills brought to the floor.
Yes.
And it's a very short period of time from the beginning of the session until those bills can be brought to the floor. So it's really important around this time that we start talking to our legislators and find out who the important chairmen are of the various committees that can make some of those changes. May not go anywhere, but at least it's a start.
Right, well, that's why I asked both about the Connecticut Association of Police Chiefs as well as the Connecticut Association of Police Commissioners. To some extent, I would imagine that both of those organizations have some sort of clout within our state in terms of actually interacting with our state legislators and actually being able to address some of these very specific issues. Of course, the legislators are dealing with a myriad of different issues.
Right,
But this is very particular.
You're the people who vote for our legislators, so
For
you
sure.
have a certain amount of, and
We all
moving
do.
up the ladder with that is
Absolutely,
important.
right. And the only other question that I had, and this is more for the police commissioners, I'm sure we'll hear more from the chief about this at the workshop, is I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts about, since you provide guidance to the chief, what are your thoughts about the role that more police officers, expanding the size of the police department, actually could play in addressing this particular issue?
Well,
Not all issues, but this.
We are planning on adding or proposing to add 4 more police officers for next year's budget.
Okay.
Because obviously we need more personnel.
So I guess that's sort of my question is, you say obviously, but I'm trying to understand, again, with the idea that police officers can't be everywhere all the time. I understand there's obviously more administrative duties, especially when you have more, motor vehicle stops, but I guess I'm just trying to understand, will more police officers actually make a difference here if in fact, the people that you're trying to apprehend as a result of this legislation, they still just, get away and they're back out on the street the next day?
Well, I would certainly hope so.
I would hope so too, but I guess I'm trying to understand your thoughts as to.
So let me just say, yeah, more police officers, of course, is going to help rather than hinder. The more the better. Of course, we have to balance that with the tax base, of course, so it it doesn't come for free. So yeah, more police officers is better, but it's just not specifically a police-related issue.
No.
This is like you said, it's a myriad of issues. It's a host of issues, and one of the ones you touched on was the juvenile crime. And that's exploded really over the last couple of years, and I think the chief could back me up on this. But you have 16, 17-year-olds who are committing probably a disproportionate amount of crime. They get arrested multiple times by the police department. They're doing their jobs. The courts are trying to do their jobs, but at the end of the day, there's no consequence. So you can add another 100 police officers, and it's probably not going to make a heck of a dent, but there's got to be consequence for the actions of I don't want to say kids, but they're 16, 17-year-olds who are committing, some of them are committing horrific crimes. They're just not, doing stupid stuff that we did when we were kids. They're breaking into cars, they're stealing cars, they're purse snatching, they're doing robberies, and the cops are doing their part. They're doing their part with what they got. But again, if there's no consequence, they get arrested multiple times and nothing happens. It's a rhetorical question. I mean, what do we do?
There's
so-
no deterrence,
so,
and there's
right.
no consequence to the individual.
So it's just, when you put a lot, we put a lot of emphasis on the cops because they're the ones that, keep us safe, and they do. But there's just, there's a host of other underlying issues that need to be addressed. And one's the juvenile crime explosion. They're not, they're not going to jail like they should, like they did in the past. In the past, I was a police officer back in the day in New Haven, and you could be 16 years old, you could be arrested and be tried as an adult. Right now, it's 18, and even at that time, they get arrested, they get in, they get out, they do the crimes again. It's just a continuing cycle. So, again, that's got to probably be addressed at the legislative level, where maybe they got to raise the age of juvenile from, or lower from 18 to 16, and make arrest and have them go to jail and be accountable for their actions.
And again, if they are minors, it's not just the minors, but also, their guardians, their parents. We used to all see the commercial, it's 10 o'clock, do you know where your children are?
Right.
Now it's 2 o'clock in the morning, do you know where your teenagers are?
Yeah, and they're committing
And
robberies and
frequently
purse
kids
snatchings
know.
and smashing into
and
cars.
there's
It's
kids who are out there, unfortunately committing these crimes, and their parents don't know where they are.
so so Nance, I think and I think that you raise a great point, and yes, of course we need more cops, but all the cops in the world aren't going to stop everything, but of course it's going to help, because it's going to, have other you can have other cops doing investigations in the detective bureau and in patrol, and you can have them spread all over the place, which is good. But again, if not every angle is tackled, then it's going to be
Well,
difficult.
I'll be sure to speak with Mr. Iacrino.
And I will too. And I will too.
I'm sure.
And I'm sure,
Yes.
yeah,
Just to see what else can be done.
yeah.
Thank you very much.
But they
for
should
your time. I appreciate it.
address that. Thank you.
All set? Okay. Thank you for your comments. Entertain a motion now to go into executive session for personnel.
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we are back now in open session after having discussed personnel and executive session. Any further comment from anyone?
No.
Motion for adjournment?
Make a motion
to adjourn. Second?
I'll second that.
All in favor?
The preceding program is brought to you in part through a grant from the town of North Haven. Watch town meetings or other videos on demand at nhtv.com.